Bitcoin is taking over the world. It's going mainstream and it's captivating audiences across every nation on planet Earth. Everybody is focused on one thing and one thing only. This bull run in Bitcoin plowing through all-time highs, plowing through 100,000, maybe even 150,000, 250,000. Some people are saying 300,000, 500,000, and some people are saying $1 million Bitcoin in this market cycle. The pandemonium is real. The chaos is real. They're even printing shirts by the dozens, by the millions. Bitcoin 100K, Bitcoin 100K. Everybody is going crazy, waiting for this frenzy of this pandemonium that is the Bitcoin bull run. But what if I told you the facts and the charts are screaming something completely different? They're screaming something so different that it would shock the entire world. We may look back at this video in 2025 and try to uncover what the hell happened, because the facts and the charts are screaming at the top of their lungs that Bitcoin may not reach 100,000 in this market cycle. In fact, the charts are screaming it's very unlikely that Bitcoin 100,000 is going to happen. But what is likely? I'm going to give the latest and greatest in this video, as everyone has been begging me, Steve, is this legendary 5.3 theory still on the table? Because we have the Bitcoin ETF, we have the panic, we have the pandemonium, the chaos that is instilling in this crypto market cycle. What is going to happen? I'm going to unveil the facts and the charts, as well as the latest and greatest facts for the halving. And we're going to compare all the Bitcoin halvings and what Bitcoin's price was at the halving and what it rose to. And we're going to compare that to 2016 for what Bitcoin's price was at that halving and compare it to that new market cycle top. And we're going to compare 2020 with what price the Bitcoin halving was at then and compare it to where it rose to. And we're going to take all of this data combined, and I hope you're sitting down, because this data is going to shock you. It completely goes against the high majority in crypto and everybody who's on planet Earth watching and frothing at the mouth for this Bitcoin bull run. I have some bad news, but it's going to be completely based on facts. So I hope you're sitting down. I hope you got your popcorn ready, because it's about to get crazy. Welcome. I'm Steve. Here we deliver honest, sponsorship-free TA with genuine value. Subscribe for a no BS approach that actually helps you. Subscribe. Now, we're going to start on this chart right here, and I'm going to show you the latest and greatest. We're going to walk through on how I came up with this chart, but this is the 5.3 theory. And what I was looking at is I was comparing different market cycles. We clearly had a market cycle in 2011. We clearly had another one in 2013, 2014, and we clearly had another one in the 15, 16, 17, and then we clearly had one recently in the 19, 20, 21, and now we're in our most recent cycle. But I was looking for commonalities between cycles, and I was looking at mathematical equations for these cycles, and I uncovered something that just blew my mind. Take a look. If you go to Bitcoin's first cycle, it rose a staggering 320,000%. Now, what I want you to do is take out your calculator, and we'll put it up on the screen as well. 320,000%, 714, right? What you want to do is plug this number into the calculator and divide by 5.3. Now, what it gives you is it gives you the actual percentage gain of the future next cycle 4 years from now. Okay, so if you put that number in, it's going to give you 60,000%, which is what we rose from the bottom of the market here to the top of that market. Bitcoin is predicting the future years ahead of its time for what the next cycle is going to do. It's mind-boggling. Later in the video, I want to get to something I've never told you before about the 5.3 theory, and it's so important. So stay tuned for that. Tilt your phone to the side and subscribe. So here we are in this cycle, 320,000 some odd percent. And we top out, we start going into a bear market and we bottom. What you do is you take that bottom and you go up 60,000%, because that is this 320,000 divided by 5.3, right? So you go up precisely the number that your calculator gives you. In a few years in advance, Bitcoin predicted what its next top would be. Now, there's people around the world that would give their left arm to know what Bitcoin is going to do. They would give their unborn child. They would sell their whole family. There's crazy people out there that would do anything to find the information that's right in front of you, right here, what I discovered in the 5.3 theory. It's mind-boggling. But this is the 2013-2014 cycle. Let's see what happened in the future cycle. And again, we're going to compare these charts, the latest and greatest information, to what's happening in the halving, the coming up halving, and what Bitcoin's price did in the past halvings. We're going to compare all these facts, right? So you see that we had this 60,911%. It brought us to the top of that market. So what I want you to do is get the calculator, put it on the screen, put 60,911 divided by 5.3. Now, the biggest question I get is, Steve, well, how the hell did you come up with 5.3? I literally imagine myself being in like 4th or 5th grade when you start setting up these equations and solving for X. You put two numbers as a fraction here, you put two numbers as a fraction here, you can cross multiply, you can solve for X. That's what I did. I set up a simple math equation and I got 5.3, and I was like, wow, 5.3 is pretty interesting. It's really based on the Fibonacci sequence, 5 and 3. Okay, a little bit interesting. And I was in the second cycle and I'm like, wow, it happened again, 2 for 2. That's interesting, but there's no way it's going to continue happening. So then I took 60,911 divided by 5.3. I wanted to see, is this going to continue to happening? Because it was based on the Fibonacci sequence. It had legs. It was interesting. So I put it in and it spit out a percent of 11,442. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. Let's go. This was clearly our market cycle top, not up for debate. We clearly were in a downfall, not up for debate. We clearly bottomed here, also not up for debate. Let's just go up 11,400 and something and see, did that hold true again? And it did. And I was like, holy crap. 3 cycles in a row was precisely based on 5.3, and it predicted it years before it happened. That's unbelievable. So then plug in your calculator right now. 11,442 divided by 5.3. What you want to do is just take the percentage from the bottom of our market. The bottom of our market's not up for debate. Nobody is guessing where the bottom of the market is. It's right here. And you go up 2,200%. And voila, another cycle was exactly 5.3. So there's a famous saying in charts, is the trend is your friend until the end, and do not bet against the trend. By the way, I'm going to get to what price it's projecting out, as well as all of the information with what price we were at with each halving. But let's not get confused. Sometimes we make it in our mind so complex. Have you ever had a time where we're in a market cycle and everybody starts chanting the same thing? It never ends up happening. Another way to look at it is every single time Bitcoin topped in the market, the high majority of people were saying we're going a lot higher. And then, again, this is not my opinion. Every time we were near the bottom of the market, the high majority say we're going a lot lower. Again, not my opinion. These are just bona fide facts. You can go back to our previous market cycle bottom. You can go back to any market bottom here. The high majority said we were going a lot lower, and the high majority were wrong. The high majority at every single top we've had said that we're going a lot higher, and they were wrong. So I want to caution you with all of this talk of these really, really high prices that are completely going against the trend. Do not bet against the trend in any time frame on any chart ever again. The trend is your friend until the end. That is a bona fide saying from people who are actually investors and traders. Literally, some of the best advice you can have is right there. And anytime something becomes a certainty, for example, 100K this cycle is a certainty amongst the high majority of people. Tilt your phone to the side and subscribe. To put it in perspective, I did a poll. My audience watches my videos, which I've clearly been stating these facts for years now, so they're ready for it. They mostly agree with what I have to say, and they strongly agreed that we will not reach 100K this cycle. They said, yes, we will. That's 60% of my audience who is like-minded to me, who watches all of my videos, and even they strongly disagree with what we have to say. So again, this is the trend. We went up 320,000%, then 60,000, then 11,000, then 2,000. The trend is your friend. Don't bet against the trend. For Bitcoin to suddenly turn around would be out of the ordinary. You would be literally taking such a gamble betting against the trend that clearly has been playing out, not for a year, not for 2 years, for Bitcoin's entire history. This is the trend of Bitcoin's entire history in front of our eyes. 5.3, 5.3, 5.3, 5.3. So where would it bring us this cycle if it were to continue? It's continued so far for Bitcoin's entire history. We probably shouldn't bet against something that's been true for Bitcoin's entire history. And we know the number one rule as a trader is don't bet against the trend. Noteworthy material, isn't it? So we take this 2,200%, plug it in your calculator, divided by 5.3. So that tells us, okay, this is the top of the market, not up for debate. We are heading down into a bear market, also not up for debate. We'll go to the absolute lowest price, and then we'll go from there, 415%, okay? This is where it gets interesting because, again, they're printing shirts for Bitcoin 100,000. The high majority of people are screaming that it's going way over 100,000. You always want to go against the majority. Anytime the majority is screaming something, you want to try to do the opposite of them. It's the reason that we have this little old thing called the RSI that literally measures overbought and oversold. How come every time we have a market cycle top, Bitcoin is the most overbought in its history? Think about that. Overbought at the top of the market. Does that make sense? You always want to do the opposite of the majority. They are always buying at the top, and guess what? Unfortunately, they're always selling at the bottom. Selling at the bottom. This is literally the most oversold Bitcoin has been in its entire history, was our recent bottom, when nobody wanted to believe me that we were at the bottom. 80% of my audience disagreed with me that we were at the bottom, as well as the high majority of everybody. All the world's top economists said that 2023 was going to be a bloodbath. But again, we were down here at literally the most oversold that Bitcoin has been in its entire history. And everybody was waiting for 10K. And this is what we had to say when we were at the bottom. And this is what we had to say about 10K. Roll the clip. The charts that I studied and the charts that I've been studying for years and years and years are saying that the bottom is in. And your wake-up call is, even if the bottom is not in, is more risky to be out of Bitcoin right now than in Bitcoin, because there's a higher probability that the bottom is in. So if you're waiting for prices to dip below 10K, I don't think it's ever going to happen. You want to just go against whatever the majority is doing. And by any poll in social media, every single poll will say that the high majority of people agree we're going to at least 100,000 in this cycle, at least. So you want to do the opposite of them, and you never want to bet against the trend. So let's get to that 415%, and then we're going to follow it up with what's happening here. So the 415%, you take from the bottom of here, right? You take from the bottom of here, we're going to uncover this price, and then we're going to go into what is being said with the halving, okay? So 415% from the bottom, okay? That's that 2,200 divided, and that's if we continue, right? That's if we continue, if the trend is still the trend, right? 415% is not looking pretty, right? 79,000 and change. Again, I will restate the obvious. If Bitcoin's trend were to continue, if we would somehow do the opposite of the majority, which has happened every single year since Bitcoin has been in existence, it always does the opposite of the majority. So if it somehow does the opposite of the majority again, and it tops out less than 100K, which at the 5.3 theory puts us a little bit below 80, I have to state the obvious. Being a chartist like I am, I love the charts more than anything. There would be a major problem at that price level. Why? We just had a double top right in that zone. And that would be a technical triple top in that zone. We could wick up into that 80 area and it would be a technical triple top. It would be incredibly healthy in the big picture for Bitcoin, but it would be a struggle for some years because of this triple top. I have to state the obvious. I know nobody wants to hear that, but we have to be real. This, what I just told you, goes completely against the majority, and it's 1,000,000% in line with the trend. In trading, you never want to bet against the trend, and you always want to go against the majority. What I just showed you does exactly those two things. That's why it's so uncomfortable for you to hear. So let's go to this chart and see if something completely changes, or are we more of the same? This chart I showed you in some previous videos, right? The halving happens on this beautiful dotted line, okay? This is when the halving happened in 2012. This is when it happened in 2016. This is when it happened in 2020. And this is when it's going to happen this year. If you take the halving, what we want to do is, hey, what was the high price of that monthly candle in the halving? Was right here, okay? And if we take that and we zoom up to where we got to, we can say that Bitcoin rose about 10,000% from the halving high on the monthly chart to our high price. Let's go to what happened in 2016. 2016, we had the halving right here, and this was our monthly candle close right here. We're going to go to the high of that monthly close, and we're going to see how high did Bitcoin go from the high of the monthly close to get to our all-time high. And that was about 2,700%. So we say, okay, it rose 10,000% in 2012, just 2,700 in 2016. Again, we're just going based on facts. The number one rule of trading, don't bet against the trend. So we have 2 data points. Let's look for our third data point. Now here we are 4 years later, 2020. We're going to go to the monthly high of that candle, and we're going to look at how high did it go in terms of price from that high that we had in order to the all-time high, which was right here. And we're talking about 600%. Now we say, okay, 10,000. We went from 10,000% rise in price from the halving in 2012 to 2,700% in 2016 to 600% in 2020. Look at the trend. What are the high majority of people saying? What's the trend saying? The high majority of people are saying, and you can go to anybody's poll, the high majority of people, yeah, for sure over 100K. Okay, what's the trend saying? The trend is saying, damn, we're in trouble. We went from 10,000% to 2,700 to 600? Are you kidding me? If we continued anything even remotely close to that, if you just put in your own mathematical equation, wake the hell up. Wake up. I know it's going to be such a difficult year because Bitcoin's going to be very bullish. It's going to be so exciting. And I'm going to be right there with you. I'm going to be keeping you level-headed when everyone is trying to pump you up with, oh, this is 1,000x. This is 10,000x. Make $1 million to drive a Lambo. Blah, blah, blah. There's going to be so many shiny objects. It's going to be difficult to navigate. I'm going to be the only idiot that's going to be trying to keep you level-headed with actual facts, trying to slow you down. It's going to be a tough year. It's going to be a very exciting year. But in trading and investing, you should never bet against the trend, and you should also always bet against the majority. Always ask yourself, what is the majority doing? What is the trend doing? Find that and keep it with you. So let's do some math. In 2012, it was 10,000%. 2016, 2,700%, which means that Bitcoin in 2016 rose only 27% of the way that it did in 2012. 2012, it rose 100% of the way. 2016, only 27% of the way. In 2020, it rolls only 25% of the way that it did in 2016, which means that each cycle is roughly 27% and then 25% and then 23%. If this was a 23% rise from a hypothetical, we don't know what price we're going to be at the halving, but we'll take the upper echelon, right? And we'll say, okay, if it's only a 25% increase of what it was in 2020, that'll bring us roughly up 138%. You can just take 600 times 0.23 and you'll get that 138, and we'll take a hypothetical price of here where we're at with the halving, and we will go up 138% to get a hypothetical price. Again, this is not as clear-cut as the 5.3 theory, but I just wanted to illustrate the trend so that you could see it, okay? We're taking a hypothetical price. We don't know what the price is going to be, but 138% gets you just over, barely over 100K. And again, that's a hypothetical price of what we're going to be at the Bitcoin halving, and a mathematical formula that's not as sound. The point of this chart was to illustrate the trend, okay? Because you never want to bet against the trend, but you always want to get a bet against the majority. Now, I want to get to something that I alluded to earlier in the show, something about the 5.3 theory that I've never told you before. Now, when we're looking at such a theory, a mathematical equation based on the Fibonacci sequence, repeating time after time after time, don't bet against the trend, but bet against the majority. This is what I want you to keep in mind. When we're in such a range, I myself, am I just going to blindly sell all my Bitcoin at a little bit less than 100,000? No. And I don't expect you to. I don't expect anybody to. You don't want to be blind to the reality. What you want to do is look at the charts and study the charts. Now, for me, I study hundreds and hundreds of Bitcoin charts, and there are several, like 7, 8, or 9 charts that clearly articulate when we have topped. That's what I will be looking at. That's what I will be studying. I'm actually putting those into an indicator to teach people when to take profits. That indicator is going to be coming soon. But that's what I want you to do. Focus on the facts and the charts, because facts change, okay? The trend changes. The trend could change from now in a year and a half from now. We need to study the facts and the charts, not blindly look at a price target. That's point number one. Another point that people like to make about the 5.3 theory is this understanding of, okay, I understand the 5.3 theory, I understand these cycles, I understand what it means, but what about the ETF? Isn't the ETF going to change everything? Isn't this news event going to somehow manipulate everything? It's unlikely, first of all. Second of all, we've got to study the charts, right? Right now, we can project that Bitcoin's not likely to get above 100K. But in 4 months from now, we've got to study the charts again and see, hey, have the facts changed? Are they the same? I will change my opinion if the facts and the charts change. This is something I've been saying for 7 years. It's not often I change my opinion. In fact, if you go back and watch all of my videos, I'm fascinatingly consistent. Even when everybody's yelling at me to change my opinion, I only will do it if there's bold facts in the charts that are clear, right? But luckily for us, these charts that we're looking at are based on human emotional behavior, and humans are very, very predictable. So this is something I wanted to illustrate, something that I want you to take with you on your journey. So while people are printing Bitcoin $100,000 t-shirts, while they're screaming Bitcoin $500,000, $1 million, $250,000, whatever they're screaming, always go against the majority of the people and never bet against the trend. Let me know your predictions in the comments down below. We will revisit this in 2025 when the whole world is wondering what the hell happened to Bitcoin. Hit that subscribe button. I'll see you back here in the next video. This bull run is our road to 500,000 subscribers, but I need your help. Today, tell one person about our YouTube channel, how we spit facts, go against the herd, take no paid sponsorships of any kind. Road to 500,000, let's go.